अनेक जन्म संप्राप्त कर्म बंध विदाहिने आत्मज्ञान प्रदानेन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भवानी शंकरौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धास्वान्तस्थमीश्वरं सिद्धास्वान्तस्थम् ईश्वरम्। हरि ओम। नामस्मरण। सद्गुरुरूपं ब्रह्मस्वरूपम् सद्गुरुरूपं ब्रह्मस्वरूपं करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपं करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपं सद्गुरुरूपं ब्रह्मस्वरूपं करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपं सकलकलामय आराध्यदैवम् सकलकलामय आराध्यदैवम् सद्गुरुरूपं ब्रह्मस्वरूपम् करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपम् सकलकलामय आराध्यदैवम् चित्प्रकाशमय चिद्घनरूपम् चित्प्रकाशमय चिद्घनरूपम् चिज्योतिर्मय चिन्मयरूपम् चिज्योतिर्मय चिन्मयरूपम् चिदानन्दमय चैतन्यरूपम् चिदानन्दमय चैतन्यरूपम् करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपम् सकलकलामय आराध्यदैवम् चिज्योतिर्मय चिन्मयरूपम् चिदानन्दमय चैतन्यरूपम् चिदानन्दमय चैतन्यरूपम् सदा बोधमय सत्यस्वरूपम् सदा बोधमय सत्यस्वरूपम् सकलकलामय आराध्यदैवम् करुणारसमय प्रेमस्वरूपम् सद्गुरुरूपं ब्रह्मस्वरूपम् 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 हरिः ओम्. The importance of karma, even in the path of Advaita Vedanta, is greatly emphasized by the masters. Even though karma has its own limitations of not being able to produce the experience of one's own true nature, but there are many benefits of involving ourselves in performance of sat karma, punya karma, meritorious deeds, righteous deeds. When we perform these punya karma, meritorious deeds, first thing that happens to us is it purifies the intellect. It is a very beautiful process of purifying our intellect. Definitely, mind also is automatically purified when the intellect is purified. Sat karma, punya karma purifies the intellect. The second benefit is it eradicates the sins That is a very important point which is emphasized by the masters. The sins that are there in the form of tendencies, because of the purification of the intellect, it eradicates those sins. It is an easy way to reduce the presence of the sins in our own chitta, mind. And in addition to that, it actually generates great merit. Because it is meritorious karma, it generates great merit. The merit that it generates actually purifies the intellect and also eradicates the sins. Not only that, this merit that we acquire out of these meritorious deeds, it makes us understand the world in its true essence. It will enable us to gain correct understanding about the world. Because of the purity of the intellect, the worldly things will be understood in correct perspective. Karma facilitates that also. The next thing is the Sat Karma, Punya Karma generates great desire for knowledge. Long life lived by performing the meritorious deeds, the result, one of the results will be it generates the strong desire for acquiring knowledge. Very beautiful result of Punya Karma. And also, another benefit is there, it makes one search for the master, reach the master, and learn the knowledge from the master. Satkarma, Punya Karma not only generates the desire but makes us go in search for the master, seek the master, get access to the master. And thereafterwards, it creates that situation wherein we can learn. Rest all is our effort thereafterwards. So karma can do so much for us. How beautiful it is. Picking up from there, karma has taken us to the feet of the master. Then what happens at the feet of the master? The master and disciple sit both together and watch movies. So, they watch the movie of this whole world, the show of this world. Meaning, the master teaches, the guru teaches about the scriptures and the scriptural knowledge. Here, few important things we have to understand. The knowledge that is arising out of such teachings, arising out of the Upanishads, if it is not effective in dispelling the avidya, then we have to understand that the intellect of the sadhaka is confounded by few things. The intellect is confounded by few things. What are those things? Number one, Vishaya Bhoga Vasana. First one. Latent impressions that are there in the chitta that have arisen from the worldly enjoyments. We have enjoyed so many objects in the world, so many Vishayas in the world, so many sense objects in the world. So there are impressions that are there formed in the chitta. These tendencies, the impressions have become the tendencies, and these tendencies will not keep the intellect steady. They create so much of doubt. In the sense, they create a sort of distraction to the intellect. Because of that, even though one listens to these things, still one is not able to actually understand the essence and as well as dispel the avidya or ignorance. So these Vishaya Bhoga Vasanas are a sort of obstruction, not allowing the dispelling of the avidya. The second thing, pramana asambhavana, meaning doubt regarding the validity of the scriptures. Whether the scriptures are valid, whether scriptures are really genuine, whether they are containers of real knowledge which will benefit me. All these doubts can be there in anyone's mind. In the beginning, few of our minds also were like that. What scripture, which scripture, why unnecessarily? I don't know why these people talk about all scriptures and all. I think this is another type of conditioning. This is useless, waste. Unnecessarily vegetating in those hours there, not doing anything, no productive work. So many people think like that also. What satsang? They simply sit, somebody says something, they listen and they talk, oh, this is there, that is there. Whatever is not there, they say that is there. Whatever is there that they say, think that it is not there. Is it not confusion unnecessarily? So, they have doubts about the validity of the scriptures. This is called as pramana asambhavana. And the third thing is prameya asambhavana. Contrary notions as regards to the import of the Upanishadic text. What the Upanishad text teaches, there are contrary notions about it. Various other notions. Oh, this is not true, this may not be okay, this may be something else, or something else might be true. This is not said correctly here, that is said correctly there. Somebody else says that is correct. Contrary notions. That also is a possibility. And then the last one is Viparita Bhavana. Viparita Bhavana means unconscious reassertion of old habits. Habits like claiming I, mine, etc., etc. Old habits, reassertion of old habits. That also confuse the intellect. So, Vishaya Bhoga Vasana, Pramana Asambhavana, Prameya Asambhavana, Viparita Bhavana. So many things are there. Not allowing us to dispel the darkness or avidya. So how to tackle them? How to deal with them? The important thing here. Sadhana Chatushtaya. We have all seen that. Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadama Adi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutva. So, all these things called as sadhana chatushtaya. The discrimination also, dispassion also, control of mind also, control of sense organs, etc., 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 and desire for liberation. All this is sadhana chatushtaya. This will remove Vishaya Bhoga Vasana. That tendencies that have arisen out of the past experiences with the Vishayas, with the sense objects, with the pleasures, sense pleasures, all of them that are there, Sadhana Chatushtaya will be able to tackle with them, deal with them very nicely. It removes the Vishaya Bhoga Vasana to a greater extent, almost. And Shravanam, listening to the scriptures. Shravanam will remove Pramana Asambhavana, doubt regarding the validity of the scriptures. Because when we listen to the scriptures, we will know what they are talking about. As we listen again and again for some time, then we will come to understand. The Vedantic study will give us the clarity of what Upanishads are. Then we will start really feeling good about Upanishads. Because without listening, we don't understand that. So listening to it again and again will give us the clarity and understanding the validity of the Upanishads. Then reflection in the mind, which is called as Mananam. The Mananam removes Prameya Asambhavana. contrary notions regarding the import of the Upanishads. Whatever is taught in the Upanishads, there are contrary notions. Those contrary notions are removed when we attain conviction about the knowledge that is heard about scriptures. So that conviction is gained by mananam, reflection upon the things that we have heard again and again, repeated reflection, mananam. So repeatedly when we do the mananam, that will remove these contrary notions. Then nididhyasanam, which is constant contemplation upon the cognition of Mahavakya. So that nididhyasana will remove the viparita bhavana, meaning unconscious reassertion of old habits. Whatever old habits are there, that is viparita bhavana, and that will be removed by nididhyasanam. So that is why the Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam play a very important role in spiritual sadhana. So Shravanam, Vedantic study, inquiry into the import of Upanishad, which results in ascertainment that Brahman is the non-dual reality and it is the prime import of Upanishadic texts. Then only we come to know that there is something called a supreme reality, supreme consciousness. And that alone is taught in the Upanishads. As we listen to it, then we will understand that this is what it is. The primary import of the Upanishads is Brahman. So then what happens with that understanding? The doubt is removed regarding the validity. What are they talking? What is that which is? So as we listen, then we will understand. Some clarity will be there. Okay, Brahman, then this is Maya, and this is how Ishvara, and this is how the world is created. That is how the Brahman appears like that, all that. This happens only by listening. Many times when we listen, then we will get the understanding. Thereafterwards, Mananam is a mental activity. Actually in Shravanam you go there, physically present there, and then arrange yourself, and then take some time and drive long distance, come here, and then do tapas and sit there, and then not do anything, no TV in hand, and then no cool drink or coffee in hand, not lie down and all that. Nothing is allowed, no, here. So all that sadhana is what? Is all your great tapas only here. And you can't talk also, how are you, how is life and all that. And so you can't do that also. So many things, lot of strict discipline you follow. In fact, really tough discipline this is. So when you follow that, that is all physical activity, but also listening and all is. But this is mental activity. Mananam is a mental activity. It is like arguing with oneself. It is not arguing with others. It is arguing with oneself with a view to ascertain conviction. What conviction? That Upanishad, whatever knowledge that is attained through Upanishads, through Shravana is valid. And then that conviction that is attained like that is not contradicted by any other perceptions or any other theories or any other schools of thought opposite to Vedanta. Whatever schools of thought that are there opposite to Advaita Vedanta or any perception or any type of theory, whatever it is there, that will not be able to distract. So, such a way when the truth is ascertained that whatever we heard through Shravana is valid, that is done only by mental reflection, repetition of whatever we have heard. When we repeat it, mentally argue, then go on thinking, then we will understand. That becomes firm. We will be convinced. That's why information or knowledge has to reach a level of conviction. We will be convinced therein. So after that, once we reach that level of conviction, then we go into Nididhyasana. This is a much higher stage than the mere mental reflection. Only when we do mental reflection for a certain period of time with total involvement, then Nididhyasanam will be successful. Otherwise, if we don't do Mananam perfectly, do little bit of Mananam and come back and jump to Nididhyasanam, it will not be effective. Because we will not be able to hold on to this sadhana only because the earlier step was not properly done. It should be very properly done. Not like simply getting pass mark. Okay, we get the pass mark, so we move on to next year and all. We'll see what is there. It's not like that. If their pass mark and all, it's okay. They will allow him to sit into the class and we can go ahead. But it's not like that. Here you have to have 99%, 99 out of 100. So like that, if we do Mananam, then it is easy. Otherwise, if we get pass mark, then we have to have push marks afterwards. Then it will be very difficult. We will not be able to get all such good marks or good growth. Nothing of that we will be able to get. That is why lot of emphasis is laid upon very deep Mananam. That in-depth Mananam is of the utmost importance. So now after Mananam we get into Nididhyasanam. This is a conscious mental effort to rest the mind upon the truth ascertained from the Shruti or Upanishad by maintaining a stream of cognition. What is the stream of cognition? Of Mahavakya. For example, here it is taken, the stream of cognition is I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. How did it arise? It arose from Shravana and Manana. Stream of ideas of the same kind as those of Brahman. Same kind of ideas as those of Brahman. Stream of ideas. Stream means what? Continuous. Like a stream, it goes on. Stream of ideas in the mind. Not like PowerPoint ideas once in a while. This is stream of ideas. Constantly this goes on. That stream of ideas as those of Brahman, to the exclusion of such ideas connected with body or sense organs or various other things, or even mind also. So there are some ideas connected with the mind, there are some ideas connected with the body. So those things also are not allowed. Ideas connected with the body is not there. Ideas connected with the mind is not there. Body, mind are not there, so sense organs, other things are sense objects, nothing is there. So what is there instead of Nididhyasana? Stream of ideas. The cognition of Mahavakya continuously. Now you understand why Mananam is important. To continuously be in the stream of ideas that are connected with the cognition, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. Do you think it is easy? It is not easy. That is why if we do Mananam properly, then we will be able to be steady in that continuous ideas. It goes. Otherwise, some idea will come. Something, some body, not only body, whatever is mine also, that also becomes a sense of pride and then so much of ego satisfaction, something like that. Even ordinary silly things also will start obstructing and objecting. There was one man who told his friend, you know, my dog's intelligence. Do you know my pet dog's intelligence? Every time the newspaper boy comes, it waits for the newspaper boy, goes there and takes the newspaper and gets it and places on my table. By the time I come and sit on the table, it's very intelligent, you understand? The other man said, I know it already. He said, how do you know it? My dog told me. So, claiming even a dog's performance, which was not an actual performance, dog telling is what dog told. So that also becomes a point of reference for the ego. If such things are given importance, where is the question of cognition of Brahman and Brahman? Think of God, dog. Same alphabets and all, but different. Reverse order. Same thing, what is there? Same thing only. It reverse. So you will also go there and reverse. Same thing. Reverted. Earlier it was only averted, now it will be reverted. So that is why there is a very good emphasis on Shravanam first, very clearly. Before that, Sadhana Chatushtaya is a must for a practice. At least something we have to do. So, here it is said, when the Guru says about the Upanishads, this is verbal cognition, which is known as Shravana of the self. Manana springs from one's logical analysis. There is a lot of logical analysis that goes on in the mind. And this is, in other words, simple words, reflection on the self. Nididhyasana, in other words, means continuous, intense meditation on what has been listened to and reflected upon. Whatever you have heard, listened to and reflected upon that continuous, intense meditation. This is also called as repeated meditation on the self. So, how much we do this repeated meditation on the self, so much it will benefit. Shravana also is very important. Afterwards, Manana, even more important. When we come to Nididhyasana, then we will be able to understand, are we really doing sadhana? Because if we sit down and contemplate upon it, if we are able to hold that cognition constantly for a certain period of time, that will tell that we have definitely advanced into Nididhyasana. A very, very beautiful continuous stream of cognition. But don't think that we don't have this capacity. We have this capacity. Don't we think about our people continuously? Suppose there is a strong desire to achieve something. Continuously we think of it. Why for that matter? If somebody has really criticized us in front of 10-20 people, then how much we think of it. While eating also we think of it. While taking bath also we think of it. While having coffee also we think of it. Cool ice cream also, hot thinking will be going on. Cold drink we take and hot thing will go on and on and on. It goes on in the mind like that. So, what has to be done is to refer to Mananam again and again. If we enter into Nididhyasanam, we are not able to hold on it. Let us not think that we have to go there and this time is up and then we have to go. That will not work. We have to come back and then do it. Otherwise, what happens? If Mananam is not done properly, there is no conviction. Without conviction, we will be fooling ourselves. It is like two friends went to watch a movie. In that movie, they were watching a movie. There is a scene where the hero is riding a motorbike, and he goes up the mountain and reaches the cliff, the edge of the cliff, and is going in a high speed. And after that cliff, there is a deep ravine, a deep valley. And once anybody crosses that, they will fall, and then no more availability. And then, but there is one more interesting thing. Immediately after the deep ravine, immediately there is another peak, another cliff. So now these people are watching a movie, the hero is going in his bike, and then there is a slow motion. And then one of these friends said, "Come on, will the hero make it? Will the hero make it?" In Indian movies, there is no doubt only. No doubt. Definitely they'll make it. So he said, "Will he make it?" The second person said, thought for a while, "I don't think he will make it." Okay, bet. Okay, bet. Challenge. Okay. How much? $500. So then he took out $500. The friend took out $500. They kept in the nearby seat which was vacant. So let us see now. So then they saw the hero made it. Jumped over that ravine, the valley-like thing, and then reached the other cliff of the mountain and then started riding the bike. And then the other fellow who lost it, they gave that total $1,000, you take it now. After a while, after the movie was over, then the friend who won it told the other one who lost, something is, bothering me again and again. I am unable to hold it to myself. I want to tell the truth. I already saw the movie. I want to tell the truth. I already saw the movie. The other friend who lost said, I also saw the movie. But I thought, will he make it for second time also? For some people, second time also there will be doubt. Mananam is like that only. You understand? Once you do it, second time you see it, you convince it only, definitely it will happen. Second time when you go and sit, you know everything will happen. Movie will not change every day. It will not change. So Mananam, what it makes you, it is like watching a movie again and again. You go and watch a movie 10 times, what will happen? You know every dialogue, everything. Before the hero says also, you will be telling. You go, sometimes you watch. There are people who have watched a movie 30 times, 40 times, and you go and watch in movie halls and they will be telling dialogues before they tell only. And that also, if somebody goes along with them, that fellow had it. Every time one pat, hey, this is what he will tell, and every time pinch, this is what I told you, already. That is another joy. So, Mananam, repeatedly. Next time when he said Mananam, remember watching the movies again and again. But don't only do that, go do this also. So, next time or every time you watch a movie, you remember Mananam. Second time when you watch, Mananam, you remember that. So, we have to understand that once we do it, reflection upon that, arguing with oneself, reflection upon the ideas again and again, the conviction is born out of it. After that, we move on to Nididhyasana. Because we should feel the need to move on to them. We should know that yes, we are moving on to, we want to move. That need is important. And then we get into Nididhyasana, the continuous intense meditation. We will be able to hold on to it constantly for a certain period of time. We want to hold on to it, we will hold on to it. Then we want to attend to something, we can attend and come back again, hold on to it. Like that. It becomes a spontaneous flow later on. Then, another beautiful thing that is told by Advaitic masters here is, it will really satisfy the intellect here. Those people who are thinking, as long as it is told, the mind will die, the mind will go, and then Brahman remains. Then some people will think, I did so much of sadhana, and then this mind goes, and then Brahman, what is there, already remains. Then where is the question of getting anything? Getting. So much I did, some getting. Tennis bat also has getting, that only. So getting. We have to have getting. So that feeling, very beautifully answered by the masters. They have said, after Nididhyasana, there is one state for a very brief period of time. That is called as, beautifully termed as, Sakshat Karavati Vritti Rupa. Please understand, a very beautiful thing. Sakshat Karavati Vritti Rupa. The mind and intellect that are entertaining this Nididhyasana, constant cognition of I am Brahman, then there is a mental modification in the form of, hey, got it, I realized. You understand? I am Brahman, I am Brahman. I am Brahman. That for a brief moment. Sakshat Karavati Vrittirupa. There is an experience. Mind, Sakshat Karavati Vrittirupa. There is an experience. I became Brahman. And the mind falls. So, yes, after that mind falls. Because mind can't remain there anymore. The mind falls. Then it is Kaivalyam. A step, a moment before Kaivalyam, before attaining the absolute nature of Brahman, as Brahman, this last moment before that is this, after Nididhyasanam, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the fourth one is Sakshat Karavati Vritti Rupa. An experience. I realized, realization. This mind, got. Always mind took the form of the object, Vishayakara vritti, sensory objects. Then later on it took the form of the Brahmakara vritti. Object, Brahman became the object. Earlier sense objects became the objects of knowledge. So many times Sakshatkara vritti, happiness is a vritti, happiness akara vritti, dukkakara vritti, sad akara vritti, sorrow akara vritti, anger akara vritti, frustration akara vritti, tension akara vritti, stress akara vritti, strain akara vritti. All vrittis are there. And Brahmakara vritti also. Now Sakshatkaravati vritti rupa, darshan, gaining of darshan of Brahman. But afterwards, this mind is no more, because the absolute reality is gained. While before entering the Kaivalyam, this modification, last modification. So that is there. So we can feel satisfied that we will get it. Then it is total Kaivalyam. A very beautiful state. This is assures a great realization. And then of remaining in absolute nature. What are the things that obstruct here? Past sinful tendencies. Actually, if there is anything causing obstruction in any stage of our sadhana, past sinful tendencies only will cause these obstructions. So, purity of actions leads us to certain stage. Thereafterwards, the purity of performance of the contemplation and meditation is very important. So, repeated contemplation on Mahavakyas, when we do it constantly, it gives direct intuition of Brahman. Direct intuition. There is no indirect method, it's a direct intuition of Brahman. So, meditation here means concentrated, continuous thinking of the truth of Upanishads. So, continuously we have to think of the truth of the Upanishad. Once we do that, see, when we are doing Shravana, then we reach Manana, then we get into the state of Nididhyasana. And there, Nididhyasana, there is Akandakara vritti or Brahmakara vritti, continuously cognition of I am Brahman, 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 that Brahmakara vritti goes on. Continuous cognition. Now we will discuss about the Samadhi. Savikalpa and Nirvikalpa, both Samadhis. This is analyzed from the standpoint of Advaita Vedanta. Savikalpa Samadhi. The mind, please understand, it is the mind that rests on Brahman, which is secondless. Mind rests on secondless Brahman, whose form it has assumed. See, Brahmakara, it has assumed the form of Brahman, like it assumes the form of the object, takes the shape of the object, form of the object. Similarly, now the object is Brahman. So the mind has assumed the form of the Brahman without losing the sight of the knower and known. Without losing the sight of the distinction between the knower and known. Brahman is the known at this stage. At this stage in Savikalpa Samadhi, Brahman means known. The knower. The knower-known distinction is still there. In Savikalpa. I am the knower, Brahman is the known. I have not yet become Brahman. So this Brahman, Brahmakara vritti is constantly maintained. That itself, according to Advaita Vedantic interpretation, is called as Savikalpa Samadhi. Continuous cognition. But the knower known is there. Since Brahman is only known at this stage, only as an object in relation to a subject. Now what is Brahman? It is an object in relation to subject. I am the subject, Brahman is the object. So it is not the ultimate experience. It is only penultimate experience. It represents only penultimate experience. It is not an ultimate experience. So what is the ultimate experience as told here? Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
Meaning what? Mind rests on non-dual Brahman, secondless Brahman, whose form it has assumed without any distinction between the knower and the known. There is no distinction of known, there is no distinction of knower. Subject-object relationship is not there. Only one thing exists. Brahman alone exists. Because the mind which is playing the role of a subject is no more there. That is gone. What remains is only Brahman. Because that mind also is illumined by Brahman only. Without illumination from Brahman, it can't be there. So that is gone. What remains is total, absolute, Brahmic nature. In Savikalpa Samadhi, when there is Brahmakara Vritti, constant cognition, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, there is stillness of mind. You understand? It's still. Mind is still. It is stillness of mind. And there is a joy arising out of that stillness. There is an experience of bliss. In Savikalpa Samadhi, there is an experience of nice joy. Constantly it happens from within. Continuously the joy goes on. This is not at all equal to any joy that we have tasted outside. Because it comes from that constant cognition, continuous awareness that I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman. And then, because the mind has taken the shape, here the mind has taken the shape of objects. So pleasures of the objects only will be the experience. But here, mind has taken the shape of Brahman, whose nature is absolute Ananda. But here, still the distinction between the knower and the known is there, subject, object is there, but even then, the subject is experiencing the rasa. Constant experience is there in Savikalpa Samadhi. But what we say, this is called as Akhandakara Vritti, and this is the stillness of the mind. But beyond this Savikalpa Samadhi is the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Beyond the stillness, there is a greater thrill of gaining the absolute nature of Brahman without the distinction of knower and the known. Mind is totally dissolved. The distinctions are dissolved completely. Brahman alone remains. That is the thrill beyond stillness. Meaning the thrill of Nirvikalpa, which is beyond Savikalpa Samadhi. That is the beautiful way we try to understand. Now, our masters have very clearly said, the journey from Savikalpa to Nirvikalpa. That is very important. The journey from Savikalpa to Nirvikalpa, even in those stages, are there any obstacles? Yes. Answer is yes. So, what are these obstacles? Number one, laya. First obstacle is laya, meaning torpidity, that meaning lapse of the mental state into sleep. Lapse of the mental state into sleep because of the failure to rest on absolute. There is a failure to rest on the absolute. It can be caused because of laziness or because of fatigue. Laziness or fatigue. So the constant resting of the mind on the absolute is not possible. Because either sleep, laya, or because of fatigue or laziness. This also. Oh, laziness affects there also. I thought it is affecting only me. Oh, those people also are affected by laziness. Oh. Because that is last traces of impressions. It is not like ours, 95% thick and all that. 1%, 2%, like traces. Sometimes it 0.00% also. Even that also is impurity, no? So remove the traces. That level. In the school, the teacher was talking to the students. She was trying to explain the math. So she said, see, if I give 2 rabbits to you on Monday and 2 rabbits to you on Tuesday, 2 rabbits to you on Wednesday, how many rabbits you have? The boy counted and said 7. The teacher said wrong. This is not right. So let me explain to you. Suppose, for example, if I give 2 apples to you, and then again 2 apples to you, and then again 2 apples to you, how many apples you have? 6. Okay, now you have understood. Then he said, if I give 2 rabbits to you on Monday, then 2 rabbits to you on Tuesday, then 2 rabbits to you on Wednesday, how many rabbits you have? 7. It's wrong, said the teacher. The boy said it is right. How will you have 7 rabbits? Because I already have 1. Because there is already 1 with me. So you give 6, the 1, 7 I will have. The teacher had to correct herself. We already have certain things. Even when we are trying to understand the higher import and then rest the mind totally there, already certain things are already, we are carrying certain traces. So they will be there to change the combination. They will change the answer. Teacher will not accept the 7th rabbit, no. For her only 6 rabbits are accepted. Student 7th rabbit, but in classroom for answer 7th is not allowed. But 7th is there, what can you do? So that will spoil the answer. Even when we go into the higher state, that the things which we have only spoil. Not what we actually experience there. Whatever we have, whatever we are carrying, that only. So we should understand where we belong to. We belong to what? It seems, I have heard one interesting thing, that once the father camel was talking to the baby camel. It was a discussion between both of them, camels. So the baby started asking, Dad, why do you have the hump on the back? The hump on the back. The dad answered, because when we are walking in the desert for a long period of time, there will be no food, there will be no water. So we have to survive long periods of no food. So that fat is there, it is stored up there, it will start giving us the energy and then we will survive like that. Oh. Then again the baby camel asked, Dad, why do you have these long eyelids and lashes and all that? Why do you have that long eyelid? Because there are sandstorms in the desert, and then when the sandstorms are there, the dust particles enter. Because of this type of arrangement, we can be safe and protected. Our eyes will be protected. Oh. And then asked, why do you have the long legs? And because the sand is very soft and smooth, and then if you have small tiny legs, we will sink into the sand. We have these legs because we don't sink into the sand. We can move ahead, walk ahead. Then the baby camel said, Dad, if this is so, then what are we doing in the American Zoo? All the things are there for living in desert. So what are we doing here? Why are we here imprisoned? So that sense of belongingness should be there. That arises out of Shravana and out of Manana. That definitely it will come because we will understand a lot by that. But still there will be certain things, the last traces, which will not allow us. Other than absolute. Other than absolute, certain things will come up. So we will rest the mind on that. Then what happens? Instead of Brahmakara, Worldakara will come. So what happened? The continuous stream of cognition is affected. One is affected by sleep, laziness, fatigue, and second thing by some other Worldakara vritti comes. Some trace will be left somewhere. It will not keep quiet. Tendency, whatever little, it will show its last effect. It will come. Even though you are concentratedly doing your work on the computer, something will come, pop up. Some sound will come, something. You distracted, finished. Then you get into that, you click that, then you go to another window, then to another world, then another planet, another continent, another solar system. Gone. It can happen. It is like that only. So, that vikshepa is the distraction, failure of the mind to rest on the absolute because of so many other things, worldly things, suddenly something comes. That is vikshepa. Then the third thing, kashayaha. Third one is kashayaha. It means attachment or intense passion. Failure of the mental state to rest on the absolute Brahman owing to the numbness brought about by the impressions due to attachment. Attachments, impressions due to attachments. Even when there is no laya, no vikshepa. Neither laya is there nor vikshepa is there, but this is there, kashaya is there. Numbness brought about by impressions because of attachment. What are these attachments? Lurking desires for pleasures once experienced. Something will tring, it will come. I am Brahman, 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 tring. Baskin Robbins. Finished. That also be, this also be. That also are, this also are. Brahman, Baskin Robbins. Short form BR, BR. Okay. But still, different. That is different. This is different. Then that day we went there and then this is what has happened and that finished. From there, where we will go, we don't know. So that also is possible. Lurking desires for pleasures once experienced. Any pleasure for that matter. Last traces of the pleasure, it will come. That is kashayaha. And then the last one, rasaswada. This looks very good, but this also is an obstacle when one wants to get into the absolute realization of Brahman. Rasaswada is enjoyment or satisfaction that is derived because one is present in Savikalpa Samadhi state. Tasting the mental state of the bliss, which is lower than the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Why? What is said here is, we should gather the strength to give up this tasting of joy also, bliss of Savikalpa Samadhi. Because we don't know the bliss of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This is another distraction. We think this is ultimate. So the masters who have transcended this and gone on to that, they say, this is not the ultimate bliss, this is the bliss of Savikalpa Samadhi. There is bliss here, but if you rest here, you will be there only. You will not get into that absolute Nirvikalpa. So, strength to give it up. Give it up means surrender it to God. I leave it to you. Then dawns the total peace, which is much more deeper, much more greater than Savikalpa Samadhi. Total peace. It will be like some children will be holding on to some stones and then playing with them. The elders will come and say, drop that, I will give you diamonds, you drop that. They will not drop it, because for them that is a diamond. But still diamond is diamond. To understand that value, here that joy has to be understood. So here what one has to do is that give up that rasasvadana to God only. I leave it to the absolute Brahman. I leave it. The strength to give up. Either surrender or give it up. With your own understanding say, no, give it up. I have to go still further. So let me give it up. Strength to give it up. That is very important. It is said very beautifully in the Shastra, Anena Vighna Chatushtayena Virahitam Chittam Nirvata Deepavad Achalam Sadakhanda Chaitanya Matram Avatishthate Yada Tada Nirvikalpakaha Samadhihi Iti Uchyate. This is said in a beautiful text called as Vedanta Sara. There, Prakash Atman and some others also are of the same view also. So in Vedanta Sara, Sadananda is the person who has given this Vedanta Sara. So in that it is said, when the mind is free from these four obstacles, Anena Vighna Chatushtayena Virahitam Chittam. The Vighna Chatushta, when the mind is freed from these four obstacles, it rests Nirvata Deepavad Achalam. Nirvata Deepavad, like a lamp, like the flame of a lamp placed in windless situation. Like the flame of a lamp, steady flame of a lamp. There is no wind. Nirvata Deepavad, Achalam. There is no movement at all. Even little movement also is not there. Also you tell that will move. But even that is not there. Blowing of the breeze, no breeze is blowing, moving at all. Steady flame of lamp. Sheltered from the wind. Then what happens? Sadakhanda Chaitanya Matram Avatishtate Yada Tada Nirvikalpakaha Samadhihi Ityuchyate. Then it is steady without any breeze or disturbance of the wind, totally sheltered from the wind, and then it becomes one with the absolute consciousness. And that is called as Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Absolute consciousness. Even Laya also, it will make it unsteady. Vikshepa also unsteady. Kashaya also unsteady. Rasaswadana, it will totally keep it there only. It has to go, remain completely steady. So then, what is to be done when these four obstacles are there? That also is important, no? The grand guru of Shankaracharya, he will give out these things beautifully. So, it is there. When the mind is in laya or torpidity, the advice given by Gaudapada in his Karika, when it is in laya, rouse it. When it is in lapse, rouse it, meaning awaken it. You have to have this beautiful pointer inside the mind. Whenever it is getting into that type of situation, rouse it. With the purity which is there at that level, but by taking this type of, having this type of understanding, with this sankalpa, the purest sankalpa, we can awaken it, rouse it. Then the second, when it is having distraction, vikshepa, then bring it back to calmness by perseverance and renunciation. When there is distraction, what we have to do? Bring it back to calmness. How? Perseverance, persistently bring it back. And renunciation. Renouncing what? Renouncing the distraction. You have to tell, I renounce this appearance of distraction. Something else is appearing now, which is obstructing this continuous cognition of I am Brahman. So I renounce it. Earlier things, so many are renounced. But these things, sometimes these things make us get identified. So renounce it. Renounce that distraction. The easiest thing. What you don't want, just renounce it. Otherwise, a small thing also becomes a big thing. Like one day, the owner of a pet dog saw the dog holding the rabbit which is the pet of the neighbor. Dog is holding a rabbit in its mouth which is the pet of the neighbor. Oh my God. This owner, my God, I can be at risk. I can be sued. He may sue me because it is my pet, then I am the owner. So, God, he rushed there. Hope he didn't kill it. He went, rushed there and he tried to pull that rabbit out of the dog's mouth and he saw it is dead. Duck, 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 duck. My God, what is to be done? Oh, and it is in my house already. Then he thought for a while, so many things he thought. What to do? The neighbor has gone for work, he did not yet come home. He was there at home early that day. So then, what to do? Then he took that rabbit. Because the dog held that rabbit, so there was some dirt, mud and all that was there. Then he took that rabbit, dead rabbit, gave it a nice bath. Dead rabbit. Then took that rabbit, again jumped over the fence and went to the neighbor's backyard and placed it in the rabbit cage. Neatly placed it and came back. Just to create an impression that it died a natural death. Somehow it died. He came back. And then he was in tension. My God, what all danger situation it was. Then that evening, the neighbor came and all. Then afterwards, the neighbor called this man and was talking to him over the fence. He started talking to him over the fence. I don't understand why people are becoming crazy nowadays. They are too crazy. They don't have sense. What can you do? No sense only what they are doing, what they are performing in actions. Our rabbit died yesterday. I buried it in my backyard. Somebody dug it out, gave it a bath and placed it in the cage. He can't understand. He buried it. Now it is back in the cage. That also clean. He can't understand only what is this? Dead rabbit, how can it come? My dear friends, when we go beyond Nididhyasana, we think everything is dead. Everything is gone. It looks dead, but still sometimes dead rabbits appear in cages. And because of dead rabbits, rabbits don't appear in cages. We appear in cages. Remember that. That is the journey from Savikalpa to Nirvikalpa. Minutest things also, dead things are not there only, never it troubled. But still that lingering last trace will be there. That will give last hit. There. Last hit it will give. Then if you get involved, dead rabbit story. That's all. This is good, no? Normal sadhana also you can still think, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, some thought will come. No dead rabbits, please. No question of digging it up and out and then giving it a bath and keeping it in. Why all this? Let things live. Let them die. Let them live there. Why you want to trouble? So in ordinary sadhana also we can think like this. Any obstruction, no, I don't want to entertain you. You come later. Baad mein aao. Like sometimes, when some beggars come and ask, you come later and all that. Like this also comes and begs only for our attention. Come on, de do. Give me little, give me what? Attention, give me little, distraction, give me little. Come later. No time. Like that. So, it is said, when there is distraction, you have to bring it back to calmness through perseverance, renunciation. Let us renounce it. Let us not hold on to it, renounce it. Then the third thing. Suppose when the mind becomes attached to something, what is the solution? Become aware of it. Awareness is become aware of the attachment itself. And at that moment, recollect the evil results of that attachment. That will save us. When there is kashaya obstructing that constant cognition, when this breeze of kashaya blows, understand, become aware of that attachment and then understand the evil result. That will take care. Then, once it is established in equipoise, do not distract it anymore. Then thereafterwards, what happens? The lingering on the bliss. So it is said, don't linger on the bliss that comes from Savikalpa Samadhi. You can taste it for a while. Then afterwards, don't think that alone is that. And then be unattached through discrimination. There also, with the bliss. So, leave it to God Himself. Leave it to Brahman only. You keep it. I don't want. I want you. You keep it this. You keep this. Don't give me these cookies and then chocolates in between. This fruit juice and then some juice and all. You keep it to yourself. I want you. Not this. Don't show me all other distractions like attractions and all. No, you come on, keep tasting it. No. I want you. So that type of discrimination should be there. Once it is there firm, what I want is very clear, then the mind attains the Nirvikalpa. Meaning the mind, Sakshatkaravarti Vritti also is there, that gets, and then the mind dissolves completely. Thereafterwards, totally it's a different story, different state of existence. Anandarupoham akhanda bodha paratparoham ghanachit prakashaha meghaya dhavyo manacha sprushanti samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti anandarupoham akhanda bodha paratparoham ghanachit prakashaha आनन्दरूपोऽहम् अखण्डबोधः परात्परोऽहम् घनचित्प्रकाशः मेघायथा व्योम न च स्पृशन्ति मेघायथा व्योम न च स्पृशन्ति संसारदुःखानि न मां स्पृशन्ति संसारदुःखानि न मां स्पृशन्ति. In Swatma Prakashika, Adi Shankaracharya says, the one who has gone there, the one who has rested there totally, how it will be. So he goes on telling about the journey itself, how it will be once you has reached that Ananda, that highest absolute state of Ananda. Ananda rupoham akhanda bodha paratparoham ghanachit prakashaha meghayadha vyomana cha sprushanti samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti. Ananda rupoham akhanda bodha Ananda Rupoham. How is my form? I am of Ananda Rupa. I am my Rupa, any Rupa, if it is there, if any form, any shape, anything is there, how am I? What am I? What is my identification or recognition? What is my state? What is my? If at all anything is there like I, what am I? If I have to call, if I have to say anything, that is Ananda Rupoham Akhanda Bodha. Bodha means that state of consciousness. Awareness, absolute state of consciousness, awareness, akhanda, unbroken. In Savikalpa, it is broken state. It is not unbroken. Here, see, Savikalpa, it will be broken because Laya is there, Vikshapa is there, Kashaya is there, Rasaswada is there, so many things to break it. But in Nirvikalpa, there is no breaking because awareness, consciousness, total conscious awareness of one's own state. No question of any other thing. Ananda rupoham akhanda bodha. I am of the nature of continuous knowledge, unbroken understanding, indivisible awareness. How beautifully it is said. Indivisible awareness, unbroken understanding. No question of anything else coming. Understanding is not broken. In Savikalpa it is broken, but in Anandakalpa no question of broken. Ananda rupoham akhanda bodha paratparoham ghanachit prakashaha. Paratparoham. I am higher than the highest. Maya is considered as the highest for the worldly people. Higher than the highest. Greater than the greatest. I am the supreme being. Even it is said, even the creator also is called as the highest, one who created. Beyond the creator, even beyond the Brahma. I am higher than the Brahma. That is, Brahman is higher than Chaturmukha Brahma, one who is the creator of the Trinity. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Brahma is the responsible person for creation, beyond the Brahma also. Then, Paratparoham Ghanachit Prakashaha. It is Ghanachit Prakashaha. Meaning, I am the light of consciousness. Just light of consciousness. And then he gives an example. How is this light of consciousness? Just pure light of consciousness. And full of Ananda. Nothing else. Ananda rupoham akhanda bodha. Indivisible awareness. Unbroken consciousness. Paratparoham ghanachit prakashaha meghayadha vyoma na cha sprushanti. In this space, in the sky, there are clouds. So many clouds, varieties of clouds. Can the clouds touch the sky? Can the clouds influence the sky? No question. Sky is the subtlest. Clouds cannot influence the sky. Even though clouds are there in the sky, clouds cannot influence the sky. Like that, even though this Mahatma lives like a Jivan Mukta, because he has realized, but he has to still function in this world, even though he functions in this world. Samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti. The dukkhas of samsara, the miseries of the world are like clouds in the sky. Just as the clouds may be there, but they don't touch the sky. These, because of prarabdha, still prarabdha is there. So because of that, these things may arise, but they don't touch me. Samsara dukkhani namam sprushanti. That absolute state. How beautiful it is. So, that I am of the form of Ananda and total unbroken awareness, consciousness, and I am the light of consciousness. Even to contemplate upon these pointers itself, there is grace of Mahatmas. So there is total grace. That's why we can think of these things which are told from those levels where they lived, where they functioned. They functioned from those levels. So once I understand this, there is no question of seeking Ananda, gaining Ananda. Absolutely my form itself is of Ananda. And that awareness of Ananda constantly remains. Nothing can shake it. That is the absolute realization of one's own true nature, where the inner self realizes one's own true nature as the highest self. Now, to make it even more easy, little bit even more easy. Now, imagine a wide-mouthed pot, and in that wide-mouthed pot, there is water. Some people ask sometimes some questions which say, how can the infinite, all-pervading consciousness can get reflected in mind? How can I understand this? So, looking at this, masters have already answered. The worldly example only they have given. That only I am taking here. Take a wide-mouthed pot and half filled with water or 3/4 filled with water. Keep it in a bright day time, but somewhere the cloud is there covering the sun, but the sky is there, beautifully bright. So, bright sky is there, bluish sky is there. Then that water in a pot is kept, wide-mouthed pot, very wide-mouthed. Then, don't you see the reflection of the sky in the water? Don't you see? You can see. When you go to lake also, you see the reflection of the sky in the lake. Lake is limited. The sky is unlimited. Pot, water is limited. The sky is unlimited. Actually, it's all pervasive like sky also. How is that sky getting reflected in the pot? How? That infinite like sky, how it is getting reflected in a small water, in a small pot? Same way, the infinite, all-pervading supreme consciousness gets reflected in mind, and that becomes the jiva. So, now please understand. Now see, pot as a base, and then this pot, the mouth is wide mouth, water is there. In that water, there is a space that is getting reflected. The image of space also is there in the water. Now, from the standpoint of water, so the reflection also is there. Reflection of space is there possible. Then, that is enlivening the mind, that is enlivening the pot, like reflection enlivens the mind, and then intellect and buddhi, chitta, ahankara, sharira, deha also, whatever it is, body also. So body is the pot and water is the mind, intellect, memory, ego, and that reflection is there, reflection of the sky, which is enlivening it. Now, from the standpoint of mind, which is water and the pot, when we see that reflection of the self there, reflection of the sky there, that is enlivening, when we call inner, from the, suppose water is the mind and pot, water is that base is there. So when we call inner, inside the body, inside the mind, inside, what is inner there? What is inner to that? Inner, suppose that is there in the space. That pot is not on earth, but that pot is in space, at a height from the earth. It is there hanging, suppose, it is there. Now then, what is inner from that? Inner means the bottom of the pot. Go inner means inner from the reflection, inner, you reach the bottom of the pot. Inner, you have to go behind the pot. Behind the pot is what is there? Sky only. So sky only. That sky is called as inner sky. Why it is called as inner sky? Because we are talking from the pot standpoint and water standpoint and reflection of the sky standpoint. So inner sky. What is the inner sky? Water. Inner sky means go deep into the water, then place your hand, then bottom of the pot, then go behind that bottom, there is sky. That is inner sky. The inner sky is getting, now please understand, the inner sky, is it different from all over the sky? Total sky? Inner sky is referential from the standpoint of pot. The inner sky is just which is supporting the pot, which is behind the base of the pot is sky. So that is inner sky. Now, is inner sky and outer sky are different? Tell? Not different. Inner sky, outer sky are not different. So, that inner self is not different from the Supreme Self. This mind and intellect and memory ego, including the body also, they all are projected onto consciousness. Supreme consciousness is the base sky. Like in supreme consciousness only they live and survive. Like the pot and water, they are in sky only, they are in space only. Earth also is in space only. So like that, in supreme consciousness, just as the pot and water and all these are created and reflection happens, similarly in the consciousness, these all things appear because of the power of the consciousness. Then when these things appear, then there is a reflection also. Once we go deep into it, we see that it is the inner self, means the space. In this example, same thing is outer space. Only from the pot standpoint you call it inner. Once you remove the pot, once you remove the water, what is there? Only space. That which was called as inner, now it will be not called as inner. Because now pot is not there, referential standpoint, water is not there. Where, from where you call inner? It is everywhere. So that which was called as inner self, now it is realized as everywhere self. Got this? Same thing. That inner self is the true nature of us. Ego is not our true nature. Mind is not our true nature. Inner self is our true nature. That inner self is Supreme Self. That is only realized. There is no more dependency on anything. That is absolute Ananda. Ananda Rupoham Akhanda Bodha. So tomorrow we will see the Jivan Mukta. How a man of realization who has attained this liberation, when he lives in the world, how he lives, how he functions. We have to learn something from that, because we are also living in the world, he also lives in the world. What's the difference? That is a nice thing to learn. Tomorrow we will see that. Jivan Mukta Lakshana. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम।